Yeah, we'll try pulling this one out.
Welcome to the Pana History Museum. It's July 4th, 2022. We've had the good fortune today to have Mr. Charlie Downs to talk about the car business in Pana. Charlie, welcome to the Pana History Museum.
Thank you, Mike.
It's really good of you to talk to us about the car business.
Well, I appreciate your museum and what you've done for Pana to putting it together.
Yeah. Now, it's my understanding with talking to you that in 1911, your grandfather started the car business in Pana. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes. That was approximately the year. I'm not just positive of the exact year, give or take a couple.
Now, what brands did he originally start with?
Well, he started out with the Buick, Ford, and Indian motorcycles.
Oh boy, everybody wants an Indian motorcycle now.
That's right.
I believe you can buy them now again, can't you? Or?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they are being made, or somebody's making an Indian motorcycle, yeah.
So you kind of just grew up in the car business.
That's right.
Have you done anything else as far as work besides the car business?
Well, I used to mow the grass at home. And
Yeah.
I spent a couple years in the Army, and that's pretty well it. That's what I retired from.
Well, I know you started with Ford, but I know you turned into a GM man all the way.
That's right.
What year was that?
Well, my grandfather, he was the Ford Buick Indian motorcycle dealer until 1919. And at that time, why, he sold the business out and retired. And he and my uncle Charlie, my dad's brother, stayed on and worked for the dealership. The people that bought him out were named McDavid, and they came here out of Hillsborough.
Okay.
And my uncle Charlie worked for McDavid as a salesman for several years. And my father was in the shoe business with a man by the name of Bob Marsh. And then in 1923, my dad and his brother formed a partnership, and they signed on with Chevrolet at that time. And they also, I think there were some other automobile companies that they might have sold for short periods of time back then. There were a lot of different car manufacturers back then.
I have a picture you let me make a copy of the original dealership.
That's right.
Right there. Buick, Ford, and Indian motorcycles. And that's the original dealership that was built in 1911.
Well,
Around that time.
Around that time.
And I've even got one of my favorite pictures in the museum is, I guess you were named after him. Here's Charlie Downs in an Indian motorcycle. Isn't that a great picture? What do you think that motorcycle's worth today, Charlie?
I can't imagine if it was in that shape today.
It's amazing.
It'd be nice to have, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Here's some of the original pictures. Is that, can you name these people in that picture?
Yes. This is my grandfather. This is my dad. This is my Uncle Charlie, and this is my Uncle Frank.
Okay.
Uncle Frank ended up the Chevrolet dealer in Shelbyville
Okay.
in the 1930s. And this is taken in the back there of the service area of the dealership. And this is my grandfather sitting here with his lady that was his bookkeeper.
And then there's the new store, I
And
guess.
then that's the store that was built in 1923 when my dad and his brother formed a partnership and signed on with Chevrolet.
Right, right. And when did that close?
Well, we in 1908 or
2008.
2008. Yeah.
Eric Denton's in there now, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I go there and listen to, he plays music in there every once in a
Yeah,
while.
that's right.
I'll go in there.
Yeah.
It's good to go through the dealership because I kind of grew up hanging out around there a little bit here.
He takes
Down.
good care of that building, yes.
Yeah, they're tuck pointing it now. Some of the bricks
Uh-huh.
came down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting sidelight, if you, when my grandfather decided he wanted to get in the car business, why, he needed some financial backing. And his father was a farmer out north of Tar Hill, about, I'd say about 4 miles north of Tar Hill. And he was getting quite elderly. And so my grandfather said to him, if you will sell the farm and loan me the money, I'll get in the car business, and you and mother can move to town, and I'll take care of you financially the rest of your lives. And they had enough confidence in him that they went ahead and did that.
Wow.
And so that's kind of where he got his financial backing to get in the car business.
I never heard
He
that.
had been building houses, small houses, and selling them to the coal miners for homes. And that was one of the things he had been doing for a good number of years, since back in the 1890s.
Wow.
So,
I remember you telling me the story about when, was it your grandfather went to Chicago with Buick? Can you tell us about that story?
yes, when they made contact with the Buick people, and they invited him to Chicago, and he took my dad along with him, and he would only been, well, let's see here, if that was 11, he would have been about 15 years old, my dad, 14, 15 years old. And he went with my grandfather to Chicago, and the Buick agent up there took him out for a demonstration ride in the Buick car, and took him out on Michigan Avenue and down the road there, and then he hit the brakes and spun that car around, gave it the gas and spun it around right there in the middle of Michigan Avenue, which I don't think you'd want to do today.
No, probably not.
But that was a story my dad told me about.
I remember I guess it was last summer, or maybe the one before that, when the Model A Club came through and you spoke to them right here in the museum.
Yeah,
That was some interesting conversations for sure.
yeah.
A Chevy man talking to all these Ford people, and they were ribbing each other back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. I wish We could have got that on the video. But you were telling the story about when your Chevy broke down or something and had to be towed into town.
Well, that's right. When I was in high school, I had my dad got me a used 32 Chevrolet, and I drove that my senior year in high school. And so one day, one Sunday afternoon, my buddies and I decided to go to Taylorville and look around. And we got about halfway over there, and the motor threw a rod outside of the block. And we, of course, had to pull off the road there. And one of my buddies hitchhiked back to town and got his Model A Ford and come back and towed me into town. So that was
The ride of shame, huh?
yeah, that was a bitter pill to swallow.
I'll bet it was. But those Model A people sure got a kick out of it when you told them that story.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, is the technology that's changed in the automobile industry from just that 32 Chevy that you drove in high school, disc brakes and computerized. How'd you keep up with it, Charlie?
Well, I couldn't keep up with all the computer stuff that's on these cars today, that's for sure. And you know, the cars made improvements all year in and year out. Everybody was looking to make this car go a little faster, stop a little quicker, burn a little less oil, use less gas, and it pretty well has happened. The cars back in the 30s and 40s, well, you'd have to grind the valves on them at about 15,000 miles, and you were lucky if you got to 30,000 miles before you had to put a set of rings in the engine, and just the materials, everything they use in the cars are so much improved.
Especially the tires, right?
Tires, same way. You'd wear a set of tires out in 30,000 miles. Now they run probably 70, 80, 90,000 if you keep them lined up good,
Yeah.
air in them and everything. So it's, yeah.
You know, in the 90s, I worked for Hunter Engineering, and we made alignment equipment and wheel balancers and
That's right.
tire changers, and I used to deal with a lot of GM dealers and, well, all the car manufacturers, and I remember all the essential tools that GM would make you guys buy. And I'd go into a dealership service department, and there'd be a whole wall of essential tools that GM would make the dealers buy just to work on the cars, because it was just constantly changing, like you said, and you needed a special tool to do this or a special tool to do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
There was every year they come out with a list of special tools that we had to buy from them.
Right.
And,
Then towards the end there, they wanted every dealer to sell tires and get alignment equipment, which was $50,000–$60,000. It put a lot of the smaller people just give up on the business.
yeah, it was very important to keep your mechanics up to date.
Yeah.
And we'd send them to school, General Motors schools, and of course buy the special equipment for them to work with. And I know a lot of guys didn't like to have to go down to St. Louis to school for 4 or 5 days at a time.
Yeah.
But it was something that was really needed to be done if you were going to stay in the business and take good care of your customers. Yeah.
And that's one thing that Downs's was always noted for, was customer service. I know my father bought several new cars from Downs Motors, and he shopped around and checked prices and everything, and he always got a real fair price right off the get-go. But the main reason why he bought cars from you guys was the way you treated your customers. And that was an honor.
Well, that was an important part of any business, is taking care of your customers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's for sure.
It's a lot easier to have a repeat customer than to get a new one, isn't it?
That's right.
That's for
Yeah.
sure. Well, Charlie, besides the car business, you grew up here all your life. You've seen a lot of changes in Pana. You've seen buildings come down and go up and come down and go up, and looks like they're coming down again, don't it?
It sure does.
Man, just all of a sudden too.
I don't think I've ever seen so much change in the downtown
No, me neither.
of the town. Yeah, it's something else out there. Yeah.
I remember before you, when Whitey's was on your back lot, when Whitey's pool hall was, you ended up with that lot for your back
Whitey's,
lot.
yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
We used to hang out at Whitey's all the time.
Sure.
Yeah. And, yeah, the town has just changed so much in the last 20 years probably, I would say, maybe even
Yeah.
a little bit longer than that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us on this video, Charlie? Or?
Well, there were other dealerships in town, and
Yeah.
some of those fellows they were our competition, but they were also friends.
Yeah.
And
Harry Wheeler?
Harry Wheeler came into town as a Ford dealer, and B.C. King, and Bob Saleh,
Yeah.
and the Rule family, and so we saw a lot of them come and go. And Tuffy Summers,
Yeah.
Pontiac dealer.
Now, Harry Wheeler, didn't he have a pretty good connection with Ford?
He, out of college, he was a personal, I believe this is correct, he was a personal bodyguard for the Ford family. And he was a graduate of the University of Missouri. I think he was a football player. And he went to work for Ford Motor Company, and he was a personal bodyguard for the younger members of that family for quite a while.
Wow.
And when he wanted to get in the car business, they helped him get started here at Pana. That's my understanding
Wow.
of it. And he was a good man. He was.
I have a bunch of 16 millimeter and 8 millimeter films that Harry Wheeler had, and they were all of the Labor Day parades in the 40s and the 50s and the different get-togethers in the park, and I've got a whole box of them back there, and I've
Yeah.
even got the projectors to play them. We ought to look at them sometime.
Yeah.
You're probably in some of them.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, I
Well,
bet
he
you are.
didn't. I'm trying to think when he got here. I was probably in high school. It was after the war.
Yeah.
It was after the war, and as I recall. No, it might have been. It might have been in the early 40s.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, Charlie, it's been a pleasure to talk to you and pick your brain a little bit about the car business, and just paint in general. I mean, you've seen it all, I'm sure, and we sure appreciate it. And Is there anything else you'd like to share with the public?
Well, just that I think I'm pretty lucky to have lived here in Pana, grew up here in Pana, and been able to associate with the fine people of Pana.
Well, we think it's an honor to know you, Charlie. It really is. And,
But,
it's an honor for me to know you,
well,
and I appreciate you helping us out here with these videos.
thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, it's nice of
All
you.
right.